Ladies and gentlemen, BYOD copies.
Oh yeah, let's get crazy. How y'all doing?
Good.
When we first decided to do this topic, we thought it was particularly interesting because, you know, everybody's heard the term BYOD, bring your own device. And one of the key things here was that about 10 years or so ago and before, the devices that people would bring to work really weren't all that great. They wouldn't do that much in terms of helping people to do their job better. Yeah, cell phones, all that kind of thing, but in terms of data, applications. So IT people could say, no, you're not going to be able to attach to the network, you can't do those things. We could justify it, not a problem. Then Apple came along with that stupid iPad thing, which suddenly gave us functionality. It actually brought value to the business for people to have them. IT people hated them because they were the most insecure little things since insecure little things. Now they basically they allowed people to access corporate assets if you allowed them to work, but they did so in a very insecure way, just like all new technology does. So we were left with this dilemma. The users of the tools saw value, and there was value. They didn't see the security or the support issue, the additional cost or risk that brought to the company. The IT people, first of all, we hate Apple, but then the other issue is that it brought additional costs that we were left to handle. And this is especially true if the core issue of BYOD, bring your own device. Everybody brought their own. And every device had different things installed, different things configured, then there were different models, different data plans, different capabilities, and it represented a nightmare on the part of IT. And it still is to a certain degree. And then part of the issue is if you bring your tablet into a workplace, does the workplace have the right to insist on certain levels of security be applied to your device? And do they have the right to basically measure and manage that? And there's no right or wrong answer. But a lot of companies are kind of like, or have been shuffling that over to the side. Well, and then finally you have the whole issue, well, are these any good? Is one device better or worse than the other? Now, I can tell you right now that we got our presentation group together because the whole idea was we're going to take the four main devices, which is a very, very simplistic view, and we took, you know, the iPad, the Android. I was calling them droids earlier this morning and got corrected. There may still be a PowerPoint slide in here, and you know, just the Android, and then Microsoft has not one but two platforms, the RT and then the Pro. So what we did was we gave each of these guys and gal one of the devices to play with, and we gave them a couple of ground rules. So, anyway, but I want to tell you right now, this is going to be interesting in terms of opinions. Everybody's got one. And if it doesn't happen over here, it's going to happen over here. Where someone's going to make a statement and it's going to be, well, that's not true because if you just do this and this and this, it's fun. This is all we do. We're wonderful at it, blah, blah, blah. So here's our key thing. We want to show a brief demo, and I want to stress it's going to be relatively brief. Okay, we're not going to go into the depths and details and all that kind of thing, but we're going to talk about the tablet technologies, and we actually have one. We have one of each of them, which actually puts both the Windows Pro and the Android tablets at a slight disadvantage because there are so many options in those two families. The RT is pretty much an RT. The iPad is pretty much whatever geological epoch you bought at, you know. But then, and we're just going to talk about some of the benefits and or limitations, and there are benefits and limitations for both. And I want to stress here, this is for business. So we're not going to talk about it from a gaming standpoint or all your pictures and all of that kind of stuff. It's really going to be focusing on business use, okay? And we're absolutely going to have fun at each other's expense. It's just going to happen. Okay? So we basically created 4 tasks, and because time is going to be an issue here, we're not going to have time to go into demos of all 4 tasks, But the 4 tasks we thought were most appropriate for business was essentially documents. Not only documents in general, but ones that we may do at our normal desktop laptop, and then we want to edit while we're on the road or vice versa. And what are our options there? Web-based applications, whatever those are. You know, are there any limitations, all that fun stuff. And then connect to corporate networks, whether it be remote desktop connections or whatever, because we want to access the data that's available and the information that's available there. And then finally, just device issues, local applications, things along those lines. Okay? So, our players today is we first have Sarah Dukevich, who originally was slated to handle the Windows device, but last week she was at the office and she actually expressed a certain interest in demoing the iPad. She regrets that. No, I'm just kidding. But Sarah's going to do that. And then we have Brandon King, who's going to be doing the Android tablet. Kevin Dukevich, the lesser of the two. Anyway, he's going to be showing Windows RT. And then Steve's going to wrap it up with Windows Pro. Oh, and then I get the Amish version. So they saddled me with the technology that's most appropriate to my skill set. So, and with that, we're actually going to jump into this. Any questions or anything before we get started? Okay. True story. I bought an iPad last Monday because they just work. We finally had to, because Apple disabled my account entirely, and it's not, I still to this day don't know why. I had to go with a new account, and the iPad I had to exchange it with another one because it literally just opens things up by itself. So either Siri has taken over or what, I don't know. So Sarah Dukevich, for those of you, is actually a Microsoft Most Valued Professional in the development arena. So she's also co-author of a couple books, most remarkably on PowerShell. And she actually, we did our first full-on technical geeky webinar last month on using PowerShell in an Office 365 environment, which she did because I don't have a clue as far as any of that stuff. And the one thing I will say is please do not tell anyone at Microsoft that Sarah is demoing an iPad.
This is going up on YouTube later, right?
Yeah,
okay.
It is. So, Sarah.
All right. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to show you the iPad and then make a business case for it. And this is it. To continue Bob's story, this is actually the working iPad. The Ouija board app was not installed, so we're okay with that. So some of the things that you can do with the iPad, simple things. Let's look at mail. So what you're seeing here is my Simplex account, but I'm sure people are wondering, well, with an iPad, you can't get your Office 365 email in there, can you? That's what this is. So you can get that. We're going to take a look. Okay. So we're going to take a look under the settings, and if we come here to mail, contacts, and calendars, when we click add account, this is going to show you, these are the types of mail accounts that are supported on the iPad. So we've got iCloud, Exchange, which the Office 365 accounts, if you're setting them up, you can set them up through Exchange and it works just fine. Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, Hotmail, and other. So your typical email accounts are supported. Just so you can see it under other, there's also additional mail accounts, contacts, calendar accounts. So you can do simple things like that. You can also, when you add those, it integrates with your contacts and your calendar. So I'm going to go back to my home page, and you'll see that the calendar's here. So if I had anything showing on my calendar, which I do, later on I got to work on another presentation, so it shows up on there. If I have any reminders that are coming up, I'm going to go back to reminders, and you can see that I've got a task list. So I can keep track of the stuff that I'm working on, stuff I need to do today. So give iPad presentation, let's mark that guy off, but that's what I'm doing now. I got to work on a presentation later, build a website, all sorts of craziness. But you can use this to keep track of the stuff that you need to do on a day-to-day basis. Of course, this is tied to today. I could say on the 29th, I need to pack for vacation. Because I mean, Memorial Day weekend, why not? But it's as simple as that, and I can tell it done. And so now, come the 29th, it'll remind me at 9 a.m. that, hey, you gotta pack for vacation. But you can do this for, I've got scheduling meetings or anything along those lines, you can do that using this. So that's in terms of mail, if I had any contacts set up. You can see that my Simplex mailbox, when I set it up, brought in my contacts. Now when you do set up a mail account, it will ask you if you also want to sync your contacts in your calendar, because I know some people prefer just to have one thing on their iPad. Maybe they don't want to bring in everything else. So you do have that option, but this is what the contacts look like. So that's in terms of that. In terms of Office applications, and I'm not going to show that because they cost something. So there's the Apple thing is called iWork, and it has Pages and Numbers and Keynote. Pages is like your word processing application. Numbers is your spreadsheets application. Keynote's your presentation application. Those are $9.99 for each application in the App Store. So if we take a look at how to get applications, I can come to the App Store. And I could say, okay, I want to search for, so if I come to this upper right corner, that suite is called iWork. You'll notice that there's Pages, Keynote, and Numbers, and these are $9.99. So those are what they have in terms of Office native to the Apple environment. However, we also have some Microsoft things that you've seen with the various different Office things. We've got Link. So if you're doing any Office Communicator or Link communications, they have Link applications that work on the iPad. There's OneNote, so you can keep track of any of your, like, imagine a notebook in digital form. So you've got those kind of things as well. In terms of connecting remotely to other computers, there's Log Me In, there's TeamViewer, this 2x client, just so you can see, if I go to add a new connection, supports remote desktop. These are just a few of the apps that are out there. You can also do VPN on your iPad. So if we go back to settings, go to general, and then there's VPN. So if you need to work on a virtual private network on your iPad, you have that ability as well. And just so you can see what's supported, these are the various different protocols that are supported. There are also applications for other VPN providers. So in this case, you got Cisco here, but you can also get a separate Cisco app if your setup requires it. In terms of some limitations in working with the iPad, something to keep in mind is that iPad doesn't support Flash. So if you're going to any websites that are Flash enhanced, you usually have a couple options you can check. You can hope that they've updated it to the website to a newer technology, so that if it doesn't work with Flash, it'll work with something like HTML5. In this example, I've got the Simplex-IT Luncheonar in YouTube, and if I were to press play, this is actually running with HTML5. YouTube is notorious for using Flash, that's why I chose to use it, but as you can see, it is playing a video just fine. However, as you'll notice up here, it also has a separate application. Now something like Log Me In, when you're connecting remotely, that they use Flash in the browser, that has a separate app. So what I advise to you is if you're using a Flash website, check it out on the iPad first to see if it displays. If you see just a white area where you expect Flash to appear, then that means that they didn't do anything to show alternative content. So then go to the App Store and see if there's an app for it. Now these guys were telling me to show some kind of app that would be really unique to iPad that businesses could get a lot of value out of. And what I wanted to show you is something called Square. Has anybody heard of Square? Yeah. Okay, we have a few hands up. So the nice part about Square is it allows businesses to accept credit card payments. They handle the PCI compliance, they handle the encryption within their little device, and then all you do is you get this Square Register app, and when you sign up for the account, you'll be able to get the free it's a little square swiping thing that fits right into the headphone jack. But then you'll be able to swipe and take the credit card payments. It's linked to your business or to your banking account. And what they do in order to make money off of it is they take 2.75% of your transaction or a flat fee of $275 a month. I believe it's whatever's lower in that, or whatever's more for them in that case. But that's how that works. But it's nice because now you can take your goods on the road, for example. Let's say that you're selling something, we're selling widgets, we're selling hardware. We can say, okay, I'm going to take this iPad and I'm going to go to this expo here and this business fair here and this other place here. And then you can just take payments right there just by taking the swipe. So if you're into a place where you need to take credit cards and you haven't done that yet, take a look at Square. It's free to sign up. That's it that I have for the iPad. Any questions? Yes?
What about using SharePoint?
So there is an app for using SharePoint. It is called Share Plus. They have a Share Plus Lite. I haven't played with it much, but I know Brandon's going to talk about it more. They also have it for Android, but they have corporate licensing as well.
And what was the name of that application?
Share Plus.
Okay.
Can you attach a keyboard to it?
I
Yes, you can.
believe you can.
Bluetooth.
Yeah,
Do Bluetooth.
through Bluetooth, not through like as you'll see with some of the others. Yeah.
Why did you choose the white iPad?
I didn't choose it. It was one of those that Michelle went to the store and that's what she came back with. So it's not mine, it's Simplex's. Yes.
Well, and to give you an idea, here's the color cover we got. So,
Can you speak to the security levels that are on the iPad that are different from the other ones, or will somebody else handle that at some point?
why don't we do this? Let's move on to the next one, and then we'll do some summary on all of these. Okay, so cool. Thank you.
Yep.
And now moving on, we move from the Apple to the Android. And Brandon King will be handling that.
Hi, I'm Brandon. Okay, so that's good. So one of the first things that Sarah went over was it email? So let's start with that too. One of the things with Android is that you have in your settings, you have a whole set of where you have your accounts. And if you go to add an account, it basically lets you just choose from a list of what type of accounts based on the apps that you have installed. There's, email would let you type in like a Yahoo email or a Hotmail email or just a general whatever email address. You can also do your Google account. Corporate would be something like Office 365. Now, one of the things that's nice that it does is apps automatically integrate themselves within the system. So if you download an app and you can log into your account and have like a persistent account within the app, it puts itself in the settings, it links to everything else. So everything ties together. So like Facebook and Twitter and all that and Dropbox aren't in there by default. You get Dropbox and it integrates itself. Adding accounts is as simple as just typing in your email address, typing in your password, and hitting next. One of the things is web apps. It does support Flash. There isn't a whole lot of web apps that I found that don't work very well, Actually, one of the things that Microsoft has done recently is if you have Office 365 and open up Office 365 on your tablet in an Android browser, it'll actually load the Office 365 web apps in the browser, from Outlook to Excel to Word, etc. So that's nice to have. As for opening your documents, my app of choice is actually called Office Suite. Office Suite it costs $20. Sorry, $15, and you can view documents, spreadsheets, presentations that are stored on there. But one of the things that the app does by default is let you synchronize with SkyDrive or a couple other major cloud storage providers, and you can edit them, and it'll synchronize everything between. So you might have a Dropbox folder on your computer, you add a file to it, it shows up in here, so you can edit it, you change it, and it's edited in your Dropbox on your computer. The app for SharePoint that you were mentioning, this is SharePlus. I'm not going to get too into it at the moment, but you have a list of sites. If you want to add a site, so if you have a SharePoint server, you have a Windows-based SharePoint server or Office 365, and it'll allow you to synchronize those. The light version is free. The only thing that it does not have is offline synchronization, so you would need an internet connection. If you pay the $20 for the Pro version, you can do offline synchronization. It does offer corporate licensing between 1 to 10,000 users, and you can actually manage all the devices that have your corporate license installed from a remote location. So if you have an IT staff that wants to manage that and dictate what settings things have, that's very useful. For remote access, TeamViewer is free. It's very nice. You install a client on your computer, you install a client on your tablet, boom, you're good to go. My one of choice is LogMeIn, which uses an app called LogMeIn. It's $20, and you open it up and you have a list of all the computers that you have the client installed on. It's minimal clients on your computer, runs in the background, really nice to have.
Brandon, did you say that costs $20 is
just
for the one license, and you can put on as many computers as you can?
Putting it onto your computer is free. Having the account is free, and with LogMeIn, unlike TeamViewer, you can log into their website and connect remotely to any of your computers that the client is installed on from your website. They actually changed their licensing. I think it's what, 10? Yeah. You can have up to 10 free devices. Anything more than that costs extra. The app itself to connect from mobile devices is what costs money, and it works on your phone and your tablet. I know many people that use it. They love the app. One of the nifty little programs is the Square Register that Sarah went over that one. It also, if you go into the settings and you have your networks section here, you can connect to your work VPN. So different types of authentication, and you can, I've tried it with, I think, 4 or 5 different VPN networks, and it's worked flawlessly every time. As for security, it does have full device encryption built in. So if you want to encrypt, you just go into security, and you can encrypt the entire thing. One of the cool applications for security that I like is called Cerberus. It is $3 from the App Store, which is actually called the Play Store. This is what it looks like. And what that does is it allows you to have remote control over things like GPS, sound, and if your device gets stolen, it'll lock on, tell you where it's at, and say you can't get it back, you can do a remote wipe of the device. Cerberus, Cerberus, Cerberus Anti-Theft. And if you want to just try it, it does come with a 1-week free trial before it costs $2.99. So that's that. And this is one of the Asus models. I don't remember who it was who asked about the keyboards. This one actually comes with a keyboard that is built in. So you have a keyboard with a trackpad, and the keyboard actually has an extra battery built in to charge the device when it's connected to the keyboard dock. So any
Keyboard has USB on it too.
Yes, the keyboard does give you a full-size USB port. So if you have a flash drive, I've had plugged in external hard drives. I've plugged in USB keyboards and mice as well, and they've all worked fine for me. Any other? Yes?
What are the specs on it?
This one is I think it's a 1.7 gigahertz Tegra 3 processor. It has a 1920 by 1200 HD display it has what's called super IPS mode, which picks up the brightness, you can't really tell on the camera, to higher than any other tablet actually on the market at the moment, which is great if you're trying to see it in sunlight. Other than that, it's got, I want to say, an 8 megapixel camera on the back, a 2 megapixel camera on the front for video chats and video conferencing, things like that. Any other questions?
What kind of price range is that?
This one costs $500 for the 32 gigabyte model. They also have a 64 gigabyte model, and the keyboard dock is an additional $150. Now, there is the old model of the keyboard dock that's $50 less that is compatible with the newer versions of the tablet. Anything else?
Now we head towards Microsoft. Yes. For that, we have Kevin David, who's going, Windows RT it's got Windows in it, so it's got to be cool. Right?
Oh yeah, Windows RT. This is a new product from Microsoft, and this is probably going to be the hardest one to sell to a business, because quite honestly, most of the stuff on here is not designed for a business. It really is designed for the consumer. I'm not saying you can't use it for a business, but just know that there are some limitations of it. Let's see. All right, so first thing you'll notice, it looks like every other Windows 7 or Windows 8 computer that's out there. Sorry, Windows 8. So I have my desktop. I have the new Charm bar. I have the new Windows UI interface here, so I can cycle through that. I have the new Windows Store, and back to the desktop. Windows RT does come with Office. That's a stark contrast to every single one of these other devices. None of those come with Office. In one form or another, you have to pay for it. Brandon mentioned the third-party one he used was $20. There's third-party ones for the iPad, and of course, with your typical Windows computer, you have to buy Office. This guy has it in there. So I just open up Word, and there I am. I can now do whatever I want. Going back to what I said about the not for business. This copy of Office, which they named Office RT because it's very specific to the RT, is not licensed for commercial use. So if you were ever audited in using this, you would technically have to pay all the fines associated with that. To make it legal, you have to have a copy of Office. So if your enterprise has a copy of it, you can use that one. If you purchase your own copy, the home business or the professional, that gives you the usage rights to use this for a business. But just for home use or whatever, go to town, do whatever you want with it. Except there are limitations on this copy of Office. Some of the points in Excel, you can't run macros in it. So your average home user really doesn't care or usually know what that option is, but you can't do it on RT. There's also some other limitations with, there are pivot tables, but some of the more advanced number crunching features aren't in RT. So you just have to know up front that if you wanted to do that stuff, the RT is not going to be for you. If you know you're not going to be doing it, okay, fine. Let's see. Another key component of Office, which you'll notice is not down here, there's no O. I have no Outlook. There is no Outlook for Windows RT. The only email client that it comes with is the built-in Mail app. This uses your standard active sync exchange protocol. So just like checking your email for on your phone to your business's email or to Gmail, or not Gmail anymore, Hotmail or any of those places, you can use that same protocol. Limitations: I can't modify my calendar permissions. I can't share calendar permissions. I can't do a lot of the things normal Outlook can do. This is a basic read and send message. I do have access to a calendar on here, which is someplace.
Is there any way of making the screen that you type on for messages full screen?
This is in the Windows UI, so if I were to make a new message, this is how it makes the message. So we can email Bob, and that's good enough. Add a message. Hi.
And right now, the keyboard is disabled because it's folded back.
Right. One of the accessories for the RT is a very well integrated keyboard, which I can flip this over, and hopefully you guys can see it. That's actually a nice little touch keyboard. It does make data entry kind of nice. It is another $100 on top of your tablet. And there is no extended battery or USB ports or anything like that in it. It is just a keyboard. So, okay, I sent Bob a message.
So that the size there that we're reading, that you can't make that bigger to make the text bigger to look at.
I'm sure there's an option somewhere in there, but just your normal shrink and whatever
Not
motions.
significant.
Yeah.
No, I actually looked into that, and you don't have a lot of play on that in the actual email application. You do like Word
Yeah. In
itself, but not in the
so if I were to flip over to, oh, where do I have it? Yankee Smash. I have closed Word apparently. In Word, you do have you can blow stuff up in Word, but yeah, the email client is limited. Okay, so what were we going to go? Email, basic active sync connectivity. The next, web apps. Well, the good news about the Windows RT, it does support Flash. Something that the iPad can't do. Here's the little kicker with it. Only on websites that Microsoft approves. So, I can go to YouTube and run a Flash, the Flash playing there. I can go to CNN and a couple other places, bigger names like that. But say I had a line of business app that was in the cloud that ran off of Flash, they would have had to beg Microsoft for permission, usually in the form of a check, to allow Flash to be run on that web page. So, yes, it supports Flash with a giant asterisk right next to it. It does support HTML5. Another little, though, are ActiveX components. You might be wondering, what is an ActiveX component? Generally, they try and make a browser or something on your computer do something it wasn't originally intended to do. The biggest example I see of ActiveX components are security cameras. They all have some kind of web page that you can log on to, but to see the actual footage off the camera, you have to install something proprietary to the camera vendor. So when you go to that web page, you click the install and you browse whatever it is. You cannot do that on Windows RT. So again, more and more limitations of what you're doing with it. Windows, and I really wish they didn't use the same name because it is just absolutely confusing on what you can and can't do.
Just real quick, that security camera thing, if they put out an app that does that, and you download the app.
Right,
you're
if
allowed
the
to do that.
secure, like in the case of a security camera, if someone put a application on the Windows Store that would allow you to view it, then you could. But just out of the box general support, it would not be able to. And there's other websites that make you install their components to look at the page in a certain way and whatever. I'm just using security cameras as an example. The whole Windows name, you think you can run anything that Windows runs. Here's an installer for a very common application called 7-zip. It's used for compressing, decompressing files, stuff like that. What happens is when you run, you can't run this. You just get it outright, you can't run this. This is not built for the Windows RT architecture. This particular program was designed for a regular Windows computer. So anytime you come across this you can't run, you know you're trying to use something that a regular computer is supposed to run.
Now, is this true of any system that's running RT? Doesn't have to be.
There are
Microsoft.
only, I think, there are 4 different RT vendors right now. I think Asus makes one. Obviously, Microsoft has theirs, the Surface RT, and there's a couple more. But yes, they all are going to have the same limitation. They all run this specific ARM processor version of Windows. Let's see, limitations, email, remote connectivity. The good news is we have at least some of the same connectivity options. If your particular place of work has remote desktop, we have the same remote desktop client that any Windows computer has. So I can put the computer in there, and I can even get down into some of the more high-level enterprise class connection methods. That's still able to work within remote desktop. VPNs, there are 1,001 different VPN clients and protocols and ways of connecting out there. This can do some of them. Any of the ones that support, let's see, close this guy out. Let's just do this. So, if I wanted to, if any of you have set up a VPN connection to work, this does support any of the Microsoft VPN clients. So I can go through here and fill in whatever VPN client I want, assuming the other end supports it. There may or may not be support for Cisco VPNs, SonicWall VPNs may or may not work. It depends on how your company is configured. So that might be a conversation you'd have to have with whoever manages IT to see if this device would actually connect or not. There are some other options though, like I started down here. TeamViewer is a free remote control option. This is another one where you can install something on your computer in the office, load up TeamViewer, and then connect to your computer in the office. So you do have some of those options as well. TeamViewer works pretty good. I really haven't had any complaints about it. I did not see a LogMeIn client on here. LogMeIn being one of the more popular ones out there. I really haven't looked too much in as far as the other ones. I do know if there is a small VNC client that someone made, another remote control option. Trying to think. I guess as far as cool apps go, well, I wish I could tell you something. This is very new. They came out in fall, was it? Yeah, fall last year. So we're just peaking the half-year mark. There isn't that much out there for it that like screams, I have to get this. And like I said, as far as a business goes, there are some limitations. One of the biggest points for selling on these was price. This is a $500 tablet that I can't run normal applications on. I can't do stuff in Office. I don't have business use rights for Office. And there is also for $500 Windows 7 Pro devices that do all of that stuff and have almost the same battery life. That's pretty much why I keep going, this isn't so much for a business. This is really more of the home consumer version of the device. I think the best thing I saw was when the Microsoft kiosk in Beechwood opened up. They had this device, the RT, and the Pro right next to each other. And right above it were just 2 words. Above the RT was play and then work. Above the Pro, work and then play. And that's really how to categorize these two devices.
If you run into times where it won't do anything and you have to completely shut it down and reboot it in order to get it to work?
Not really. No, it's what I've played with it. It's been fairly solid. I don't know,
We've had that happen
Bob
quite a few
uses it.
times, where it's in some kind of mode of tap it,
Now,
yell at it, whatever, nothing worked. Shut it completely down, reboot it, and away it goes.
no, I haven't come across any problems. I guess I should give this as a bonus. Microsoft with the Office. What this does have with Office is the tremendous integration options with SkyDrive. The other devices, they don't have that. Windows Pro has that, the RT has that. So what that means is I can take my little document here, File, Save, and I can choose to save this on a computer, or I can choose to save this up to the cloud. So the nice thing about that, if I choose the cloud, I can save whatever I was working on here, and then say I go home, I have a full Windows computer, I can just load up my SkyDrive account and start working on the document on there, the exact same document. And if I were to go to open, this recent document list, this actually reflects my recent documents, not the documents on the computer. If I had two computers now, one of them I worked on a Word document, moved to the other computer, well, the second computer has no clue what I was working on. Office, this version of Office with the SkyDrive integration, all that, it knows I worked on that document over there. So I can continue working where I left off and not where I left off on the computer. So that, I guess that is one of the benefits of having this particular model of device.
And if you have multiple people in the same room with these devices, they will begin to dance. And they will swap the keyboards and all. So if you're lonely, you know, buy one of these and like go near the Apple store, not the Apple store, the Microsoft store. Yeah, go near the Microsoft store, you'll just be lonelier. Now we have the tough job.
It is kind of tough, I guess. I don't know, this here tablet thing, yeah, thanks. And actually, this is just a Dell laptop, basically, but it's also a tablet. Sometimes called Ultrabook, and I'm going to move this around. You know, the tablets are kind of tougher to use sometimes because they're so small. So I'll just kind of move this up. Try to get the glare off a little bit. Okay. There you go. Do a little better here. There you go. There we go. Well, anyways, this is running actually full version of Windows 8. And there again, you can. Come on, man. Should almost just connect it to the projector. But anyways, you can run basically anything you have on this that you have at work. And the biggest thing with having a full laptop, turn around, it's got a full keyboard, or as I carried it up here, it's a full tablet. So, also one nice thing is styluses used to be big with like Palm Pilots and stuff. This actually comes with a stylus because, and my cool drawings here. We'll just blow this up. Since I'm not real good at, remembering for presenting, I had to take some notes, while they were presenting. And basically, this is what I came up with, is that, it's Windows. Okay, let's maybe, there we go. Perfect. And as Kevin was talking about with the SkyDrive integration and stuff like that, if you have your documents synced on Office 365 on your work machine, come home, use this, go on the road, use this. All of those things are also there. And for example, I have a this is a licensing document I was looking at. And this is actually on the SharePoint. So if you look at my recent documents here, there's a whole bunch of them. And it's really easy to set up that kind of integration. So this is our SharePoint site. And these are all the documents. But see, if you look at my computer and go to my documents here, I don't really have anything in here. Now, there's a couple folders that are probably empty. Notes, yep, those are empty. So basically, I don't have anything, any documents on here. It's all in the cloud. It's all in SharePoint. The other thing they talked about is email. Well, again, that's easy because it runs the full version of Office. So I have the full version of Outlook on here. I can do all my calendaring. That's all on here. Contacts are all on here. Yeah, I don't have many contacts, but I don't have many friends either. It's okay. Back to my notes here. We also talked a little bit about remote connectivity. So this is this remote desktop, and I remote desktop into my desktop at work. So now I can go in here and open my documents, and of course I don't have any documents there either because they're all synchronized. So, you know, as you can see, you know, I have the apps there that I would have at work on my desktop at the office. I wish I had something funny to say, but I really don't. So this is, in my view, at least, the easiest thing to work with. You know, I use this for basically everything. I take it to customers, I take it to the office, I work on it at home. And it's basically the same experience wherever you are. And typically, even for previous versions of Office, you're licensed to use it on your work machine. And, well, if this is also your work machine, as long as you're not using them at the same time, technically you're still within license. Outside of that, because all the apps you can use at the office, you can use on this. You can use VPNs just like you would on a normal mobile machine. I'd ask if there were any questions, but that's all I've got for this. Absolutely, absolutely. And this actually has a VGA port and an HDMI port, so I can hook that up fairly easily. Usually with this, it's a lot easier just because I'm running around with it. I haven't even tried it, but it would work.
Give you another example. This is more of a traditional Windows 8 tablet. It's a Samsung. Okay. And this is, it's kind of like what Steve said here. It's running Windows. So at the end of the day, that's what it can do. It runs, it's a full-blown version of Windows. There's technically, from a software standpoint, nothing different from that machine, this machine, and my laptop, which is your traditional Acme standard laptop. There's no difference.
So you could, that could become your own computer. If you just needed a keyboard and then monitors, and then it's fully functional.
Yeah, and this actually has both HDMI and USB connection. So, cool.
Thank you.
Now, what I want to do to wrap this up, we've got about a few minutes. Yeah. Well, I actually ran home. Can you give me my thing over there? And we actually did have that. My oldest daughter and my granddaughter are at the house making sure, yeah. Well, it was funny because I said to my daughter, I said, do we have like an Etch-a-Sketch or something to draw with? And my granddaughter just said, oh yeah, we've got something. And walked over and picked this out and then proceeded to demo it. And she said, so in order, and I thought about that. I honestly did think about bringing her because she'd do a better job, you know, than you guys. And no, but you know, you have full document management, you know, and you have full control over, you can delete. You can also save the documents by taking a picture of it. You know, so there's some use here. So
You don't have to worry about battery.
their battery is significantly better than anything these guys are talking about. So security? You touch this, you deal with my granddaughter. Well, yeah, it has some screen burn issues, you know, which almost look like someone put a cigarette out, so I think my 5-year-old granddaughter smoked. So I want to just kind of summarize some of these issues, and if you guys... So, iPad, except for the one I got, it just works. Single manufacturer. And also they go very tiered development. So there's an iPad that was released on this year, iPad released this year, iPad released this year. So it's a very safe bet in terms of the device that you're purchasing, okay? Which is a good thing, especially from a corporate control standpoint. Only from Apple, can't use Flash. As Sarah was saying, that's becoming less and less of an issue because Flash is an older technology, just like ActiveX controls. All right, so more and more websites are dealing with whether it be HTML5 or other technologies in order to deal with that, okay? Huge application store, all right? Not necessarily all business, but it's a huge application store, all right? So that's a good thing. Absolutely, and market share is shared with Android. We'll get to the details later. And you can be really snobby, okay? With Androids, the challenge with Androids is, okay, many flavors and vendors. So you can't just simply say, I've got an Android tablet. Now, that's good and that's bad. It's good from the standpoint you have a lot of options. When you talk about, is there USB on this one? Is there HDMI? How much? What version? You know, there's flavors, all that kind of stuff. That becomes a challenge in terms of a BYOD standpoint because now each one of them has different management capabilities. All right? That's a challenge. But it also gives you more opportunity to have better, more powerful stuff. Decent application store. It's a good application store. There's a lot of good applications that are out there for it. More open architecture than Apple on 2 levels. One, for the developers, but then also the applications integrate better, as Brandon was saying. They integrate better within your device than does Apple. Apple is kind of segmented, whereas the Androids are integrated. Currently has greater market momentum than Apple. That's huge, all right? Because a lot of us just think from the standpoint of iPad, but if you actually look at the sales and more importantly, the changing in the sales numbers, the Android is beating the iPad, no question about it, okay? Now, the iPhone, different story, but the tablet world is definitely the Androids that are moving forward. And to the point where it was, Brandon, did you say this first quarter this year?
As of first quarter 2013, Android tablet market share surpassed iPad market share.
Okay. So that gives you an idea of what's going on with that. And you can still be snobby with an Android tablet, but you have to have, there's a geeky component to that. Okay, so you have to be willing to do both. Windows RT. Windows RT, it's kind of like Kevin was saying. It really, and I gotta admit, I blew it on this one. I thought this was gonna be much better and much more popular. And part of the issue is that the price difference between a Pro and an RT Didn't turn out to be as huge as people were saying it was going to be. Okay, so for just a few bucks more, you can have the full version of Windows as opposed to having the RT. And you can get around some of the licensing issues if you have Office 365, for example. If you're getting your Office through Office 365, you can have Office on up to 5 devices, including this. So there's ways to get around that Office issue as far as the licensing goes. But the bottom line is this thing will do everything, and a lot of it not very well. Okay? So that's a challenge, and absolutely the market share is nowhere near, single digits at best for the RT, and no kind of momentum to speak of. So this is the one that we would say stay away from for business. Okay? Then we have Steve, who had the real easy one. It's more expensive. Okay, you're probably going to end up paying a couple $100 more for a Windows Pro tab than you would, and we're basically dropping the RT out of the discussion for right now. But versus the Android or the iPad, you definitely, we've seen some of the Windows Pro for like $600, give or take. Okay, $600, that's without Office. Okay? But you add Office to it through an Office 365, including the home version, which if you get it for your home, it's like $99 a year, and you get to install Office on up to 5 devices. Okay? So, it's Windows. If it runs on Windows, then it'll run on Windows. Okay? Yeah, except for those times it doesn't. We're not talking about that. Well, actually, it's a good point, because you could have applications that aren't compatible with Windows 8 yet. In which case, yeah, you've got an issue. Okay? Wide range of hardware, because people are coming out with Windows. And you have stuff like what Steve has there, which is a combination tablet and laptop. It really depends on how you fold it. It's a transformer. So you can kind of have it the way you want to, as well as you have it in the more traditional tablet, but you can still add devices to it through either USB or HDMI, but it depends on the hardware you bought. Okay? HP has a line of them that you can get the tablet, a good mouse, keyboard, a little stand to prop the tablet up, and you can do that well under $1,000. And that is actually your laptop. You can use that instead of having a laptop. So keep that in mind. What we talked about, the speed varies greatly. Why? Because it's Windows. You can pay more for bigger, faster, harder hardware, or you can pay less and get smaller, lighter, more portable. It's up to you. Battery life also varies greatly. Not only between device and device and device, because you have some of these processors that are actually built to conserve energy, but you also have different applications. If you're using applications that are in the Windows UI, they actually use a lot less CPU and a lot less hard drive than the ones that run into Windows Go. Okay? It's Windows. So, one other thing to keep in mind. And to me, here's the key thing. If you're looking to standardize for your business, you need to get one of these things. I don't care which one it is, because like John said, we don't sell it. And put it through the paces of what you expect it to be able to do. Because every one of these has pluses, every one of these has minuses. Every one of these can do remote desktop connectivity, but can they do remote desktop connectivity to a server 12? Can they deal with VPNs through SonicWall? Can they do with this vendor? All of that kind of thing. The person who's trying to sell it will say to the generic, can it do this? Of course it can. But then you take it to the office and, oh, yeah, it won't do it that way, no. Oh, great. So, get one, test it. In the case of the Windows Pro and the iPad, it's pretty much, if it works, it's going to work. In the case of the Android, it works on this make model version. You need to be careful then that the devices you get are those make model versions.
The apps that go between everything are all the same. It's only the different hardware.
Cool. Cool.
So the operating system itself is all the same. It runs all the same things the same way.
Okay. But the key thing is, you need to be careful. Okay? I do believe that a business that tries to put together a policy of which devices have been approved is going to have a lot easier time controlling and managing them than people just saying, I just got this for Christmas, birthday, whatever. I brought it in, can you connect it to the network? It also is there are more and more tools being introduced that allow IT to control these devices, to even wipe them out if they're reported lost or stolen. But are you willing as a company to do that to someone's personal iPod that it turns out their kid borrowed it for the weekend? Sorry about that. Okay. So there's as much business process and needs discussion that has to happen. The Androids and the iPads are in the same ballpark price-wise. The Windows Pro, you're probably looking at a minimum $200 to $300 more, give or take. The Windows Pro, however, has the absolute ability to also replace your laptop. And if you'll notice, when we talked about the iPad and Android, a lot of our answer was, there's an application you can download or buy. And it's from another party. It's not SharePoint, it's this SharePoint tool that's a third party developed. It's not Office, it's this version that kind of does Office. It's not, and we didn't talk really about the remote storage, it's iCloud, which will work with Office but it doesn't integrate. If you go with the Windows Pro, it's in there. Okay? Sound like I'm a little prejudiced towards Windows? I am. I think what they've done is a really, really cool platform. But I also understand and accept the fact that the iPad and the Androids are good alternatives. So, thanks.
Bob Copic, everybody.